I've been going through the trading records from Monday morning for the past 2 days, and I want to walk you through exactly what happened because what I found is one of the most significant financial stories of this entire war. And it has almost nothing to do with missiles. At 6:49 a.m. on Monday, March 23rd, the oil futures market on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange went from quiet to electric in 60 seconds. 6,200 Brent and West Texas Intermediate contracts changed hands in a single minute. $580 million worth of oil futures, all of them betting in the same direction that oil prices were about to fall. Trading volume at that moment was 6 times the normal level for that time of day. There was no public news, no announcement, no press briefing. The market was otherwise quiet, just a sudden massive one-way bet that oil was going down. 16 minutes later, at 7:05 a.m., Trump posted on Truth Social. He said the United States and Iran had been engaged in very good and productive conversations. He announced a 5-day pause on strikes against Iranian power plants. Oil dropped 14% in minutes. The Dow surged more than 1,000 points. Whoever placed those trades at 6:49 a.m. made an enormous amount of money in less than 20 minutes. That is the sequence. I am not drawing conclusions about who did it. I am telling you what happened, in the order it happened, with the numbers attached, because those numbers tell a story that multiple financial experts, a Nobel Prize-winning economist, and a sitting U.S. senator have now described publicly using the same word, insider trading. Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman wrote about this directly. He said we have another word for situations in which people with access to confidential information regarding national security exploit that information for profit. He said that word is treason. He then asked a question that I think deserves to sit with you for a moment. He asked whether decisions about war and peace are in part being made to serve market manipulation rather than the national interest. He said if you dismiss that as unthinkable, you just haven't been paying attention. Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut went further. He posted on X that $1.5 billion in S&P 500 futures were sold in the minutes before Trump's announcement. His exact words were a $1.5 billion bet. Let me say it again, a $1.5 billion bet, 5 minutes before Trump's post. Who was it? Trump? A family member? A White House staffer? This is corruption, mind-blowing corruption. Now I've spent a decade analyzing how markets and governments interact, and I want to give you the full picture of why this specific situation is more alarming than a single suspicious trade. This is not the first time this pattern has appeared during the Trump administration. On the Friday before the Iran war started on February 28th, an unusual surge of more than 150 poly-market accounts placed hundreds of bets predicting a U.S. strike on Iran by the next day. Those bets were placed before any public announcement, before any leaked intelligence that appeared in media reports. They were placed by accounts that knew. On January 2nd, a trader turned roughly $32,000 into more than $400,000 by betting on the capture of Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro before it was announced the following morning. The pattern goes back further. When Trump reversed his tariff escalation in April 2025, Democrats in Congress flagged unusual trading activity in the minutes before that announcement as well. Tim Skiro, head of energy and derivatives at consulting firm Energy Aspects, confirmed to CBS News that trading at 6:50 a.m. on Monday was 6 times typical volume for that time. He said in terms of size, this is not exceptionally large, just unusual for this time of day. Stephen Peepgrass, a partner specializing in futures trading at law firm Troutman Pepper Locke, said the massive spike in volume right before that post is certainly enough to raise eyebrows and to launch an investigation into what was behind it. Ben Schifrin, director of securities policy at financial reform group Better Markets, said the timing was suspicious and laid out the 2 possible explanations plainly. The innocuous one is that the traders just happened to trade right before the announcement of material information. The more problematic one is that they knew about the announcement before they placed the trades. There is a third dimension to this that most coverage hasn't connected, and it involves the people closest to the decisions being made. Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, was one of the 2 envoys Trump sent to meet with Iranian officials the Sunday before the Monday announcement. He is also seeking to raise billions of dollars for his private equity fund from Persian Gulf governments that are directly entangled in this war. Trump's sons, Eric and Donald Jr., have invested in drone companies that are actively competing for Pentagon contracts in the conflict. The administration has simultaneously dismantled much of the machinery designed to catch exactly this kind of trading. The Justice Department's Public Integrity Section, created after Watergate specifically to prosecute corrupt officials, was reduced from 36 lawyers to 2 last year and stripped of authority to file new cases. In 2025, the administration canceled 159 federal enforcement actions against 166 companies, more than 30 of which donated to Trump's inauguration or White House events. Reuters reported that the SEC's top enforcement official resigned last week after agency leaders blocked her from aggressively pursuing cases touching Trump's circle. In other words, the people with the most direct access to market-moving war decisions are also the people with the most financial incentive to exploit that access. And the agencies responsible for investigating whether that exploitation is happening have been systematically weakened or shut down. The White House told the Financial Times it does not tolerate any administration official illegally profiteering off of insider knowledge. House Republicans this week blocked a Democratic motion to subpoena Donald Trump Jr. over his venture capital firm investing in a rare earth minerals company months before it received favorable policy treatment. Now, let me connect this directly to what it means for you, because this is not just a story about wealthy traders making money. This is a story about the integrity of the market that your retirement savings, your 401k, and your investment accounts operate inside. When someone trades on insider knowledge of a presidential announcement, they are not just making money. They are taking it from someone on the other side of that trade. Every derivatives contract has two sides. Someone sold oil futures at 6:49 a.m., betting prices would fall. The people who bought those contracts, betting prices would stay the same or rise, lost money 16 minutes later when Trump posted. Those buyers were operating without the information the sellers had. That is the definition of an unfair market. And the buyers in that market include pension funds, index funds, retirement accounts, and ordinary investors who had no way of knowing what was about to be posted on Truth Social in 16 minutes. The CME, the world's largest derivatives marketplace, has not commented publicly on whether it has opened an investigation. The CFTC, the regulator responsible for commodity futures markets, launched a proposed rulemaking process earlier this year focused partly on preventing insider trading in prediction markets. That process has not yet produced enforceable rules. The SEC, whose top enforcement official just resigned under pressure, is the agency that would investigate stock futures trading around the announcement. Its current posture toward Trump-connected investigations has been documented by Reuters as one of active restraint. I've also been going through the prediction market angle because it adds a layer to this story that is genuinely new. Polymarket and Kalshi are platforms where you can bet real money on the outcome of political and economic events. They have exploded in size. Combined monthly trading volume reached $18.3 billion in February 2026, up from less than $2 billion in August 2025. Kalshi alone is said to have reached an annualized revenue run rate of $1.5 billion. These are not fringe platforms. They are major nodes in contemporary finance with valuations approaching $20 billion each, and they have become the most visible venue for the insider trading pattern that keeps appearing around Trump's war decisions. CNN reported that an unknown trader made $1 million from dozens of bets about Iran on Polymarket over a short period. The Guardian reported that 8 new Polymarket accounts, all created around March 21st, collectively bet nearly $70,000 on a U.S.-Iran ceasefire being reached before March 31st, positioning themselves to make nearly $820,000 if such a deal goes through. 6 newly created accounts in February made about $1 million by correctly betting that the U.S. would strike Iran by February 28th, buying up cheap contracts days before the bombs fell. Senator Murphy called prediction markets fundamentally corrupt and rife with insider trading. He said they provide, and I'm quoting him directly, perverse incentives for government officials to shape life and death decisions around their own financial interests. That last sentence is the one I keep coming back to because it states plainly the darkest version of what this pattern suggests. Not just that officials are profiting from decisions already made, but that the decisions themselves are being shaped, at least in part, by who profits from them. Are bombing campaigns being escalated and de escalated partly based on when it is most profitable to do so? I cannot prove that. Nobody can without an investigation. But Krugman asked the same question and said dismissing it as unthinkable means you haven't been paying attention. Here is what I can tell you with certainty from the documented record. Trump threatened to obliterate Iranian power plants on Saturday. Trump posted about productive talks on Monday. $580 million in oil futures were traded in the 60 seconds before that Monday post. $1.5 billion in S&P 500 futures were sold in the 5 minutes before it. The trading volume was 6 times normal. The direction of the trades perfectly anticipated the content of a post that had not yet been made public. Iran denied the productive talks existed. The announcement moved markets 14% in oil and more than 1,000 points in the Dow. And the agencies responsible for investigating whether that sequence involved insider trading have been weakened, had their leadership resign under pressure, or been blocked by House Republicans from issuing relevant subpoenas. That is the documented record. You can read every one of those facts in mainstream financial and news sources published this week. None of it requires inference. All of it is on the record. The person who lost money on the other side of those 6:49 a.m. trades is not a hedge fund. In a market that size, at that time of day, the counterparties include retirement funds, pension funds, and the index funds inside the 401k that you check on your phone. When someone with inside knowledge of a presidential announcement trades against the market is you. The loss on the other side of that profit comes from somewhere. It comes from accounts held by ordinary people who were asleep at 6:49 a.m. on a Monday morning, unaware that a Truth Social post was 16 minutes away. Martha Stewart went to jail for saving $45,000 by acting on inside information about a falling stock. She spent 5 months in prison. The trade on Monday involved $580 million in oil futures and $1.5 billion in stock futures, positioned with apparent advance knowledge of a presidential announcement about a war. The Justice Department's Public Integrity Section that would investigate government officials in that scenario now has 2 lawyers. 2. I'll leave you with the question that Krugman asked and that nobody in Washington has answered. Are decisions about war and peace being made, at least in part, to serve the market manipulation rather than the national interest? I'm not telling you the answer. I'm telling you the question deserves an answer. And right now, the institutions responsible for finding it have been systematically dismantled by the same administration that benefits from them not looking. If this analysis gave you something the evening news didn't, subscribe. Because what happens in the oil futures market at 6:49 a.m. on a Monday doesn't stay in the oil futures market. It ends up in your retirement account, in the pension fund your employer contributes to, and in the integrity of the market system that everyone's savings depend on. And right now, nobody with the authority to investigate it seems particularly interested in doing so.